This is America First, and here's your host, Dr. Sebastian Gorka.
The war on the boys and the girls in blue continues. Incredible news out of New York. Truly hard to understand, hard to justify. We have the man who can explain the significance of that decision with us right now. Former commissioner of the New York finest police force, I would say, in the world. He's Bernie Kerik. Follow him on Twitter right now and have a look at his Twitter feed because there's a very interesting photo back from 1988. You looked, I like that mustache you had there when you were in the plainclothes unit there, Bernie.
You know what, Sebastian? Back then I had hair down to, well, I had hair, period, but it was pretty long. And yeah, I had a mustache. Then I went on to narcotics, and I had hair down to the middle of my back. I had 7 diamond earrings. I had a big goatee, and it was
7 diamond earrings.
I did, and I looked so bad that my mother, who worked in a pharmacy, would not allow me to come in. She used to tell me wait in the parking lot, and she'd come outside and see me. So it was pretty bad.
You look so respectable now.
Well, listen, times have changed. You know, when I was buying drugs in Harlem, Spanish Harlem, and Washington Heights, it was a little different.
All right, so we have to talk about this decision. For those, I'm a massive fan. My wife and I, every night, we watch about 3 episodes at least of NYPD Blue. And you know, it's Detective Sipowicz, it's the guys downstairs, it's Greg, it's Bobby, and then anti-crime is the floor above. Anti-crime is what we're talking about. We're talking about plainclothes, and NYPD has just decided to get rid of it. Does that mean, what, Bernie, is there no crime left for plainclothes detectives to investigate in New York?
You know what the shame of this is, Sebastian? The reality? Here's the reality. You know who's going to suffer the most? The black community. The black community and the communities of color where the most crime is, where the most violent crime and murder rates are. That's who suffers most when you disband a unit like this. You know, there's 76, I don't know what the number is today. Under my command, it was 76 precincts. I had 55,000 people working for me. 41,000 were uniformed. Today, there's probably around the same amount of precincts. In every one of those precincts, you have the patrol division, you have a detective squad, and you have an anti-crime unit. And the anti-crime unit, they work in plain clothes. When I was an anti-crime in Midtown South, and that was Times Square, I wore civilian clothes, and I rode around in a yellow cab in Midtown Manhattan. And if if you know what to look for, and you see a guy driving, 2 guys in the back, or a girl in the back, if there's a certain thing on that cab, and I won't get into it here, that is an anti-crime car. That's a police car.
And what was your job? The plainclothes anti-crime police officers like you, what was your job on the streets of New York?
Guns. You're looking for guns?
Guns off the streets.
Guns, robberies. You're responding to what we call hot jobs. So anything in progress that's violent, a burglary, a robbery, a murder, shots fired, all of those jobs, those are the jobs you respond to because you can, in plain clothes, you can blend into those areas, right? You can drop your car at a corner, turn the block, walk the corner, and walk up onto the street in plain clothes, and respond in plain clothes. So you sort of blend in. You're a chameleon in the community. The majority of the guns taken off the streets in New York are done so by anti-crime cops.
So does that mean that New York now has no illegal guns, no muggings, no attempted murders? Is this why they've designed? How many plainclothes officers are we talking about?
Well, in this transfer, I understand it's about 600. So they took 600 cops out of plainclothes, and they put them, some went to the detective bureau, so they'll be split up into detective squads, and others will go into some other units that has nothing to do with responding to violent crime and doing some of the things that I'm talking about. So I don't know exactly. I got to be honest. You know, I honestly think that de Blasio's doing this intentionally to have a negative impact on the communities of color. That's the only thing I can think of, because that's what's going to happen. There's no way around it.
It's absolutely insane. We have to discuss what this means for those who put on the badge, strap on the gun every day, what's happening to their mission, their mandate, their morale. We're talking to the man who knows because he was there. He was in the arena as the commissioner of the New York Police Department. Follow him right now, Bernie Kerik on Twitter, Kerik. I'm Sebastian Gorka, former strategist to President Donald J. Trump. This is America First on the Salem Radio Network, broadcasting across the nation on hundreds of stations, also live on YouTube, streaming on Facebook, available on Instagram, and wherever you get your podcasts. Do you ever worry about your retirement? Will your funds grow over time, and will they be there when you really need them? Don't bet all of your retirement on a risky stock market or a crashing dollar. My friends at Midas Gold Group can show you how to add the safety and stability of physical gold and silver to your existing IRA or old 401k. The process is simple and tax-free. Do what I did. Discover how Midas Gold can bring you financial security today.
On the side of the U.S. Constitution, America First.
Thank you to all of you for making this show and all of our shows possible. This isn't NPR. We don't get a handout from the government. This is a free market, and it's our advertisers, our sponsors, and you who patronize them that make our shows possible. Thank you so very much. The Job Creators Network, the advocates for small and medium-sized business. Check them out at jobcreatorsnetwork.com. God bless you and all who support our shows as well. He was the 40th Police Commissioner of the New York City Police Department. Follow him right now on Twitter at Bernie Kerik. We were discussing this unbelievable decision, Bernie. Hundreds of officers taken off plain clothes. It's going to hurt the people of New York, especially the minority community. Let's talk about not just that decision that's clearly indicative of something, but generally, you have your friends, your former colleagues who are still in there. What's the morale like? How hard is it today for a man or a woman to put on the blue, put on that badge, and go to work when you know the mayor and the governor doesn't have your back, Bernie?
Well, it's hard, and I hear it every day. I get hundreds of direct messages on social media, whether it's Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, whatever the case may be, cops complaining about not being supported, about the anti-police rhetoric by the governor, by the mayor, the lack of leadership. For guys that were not on the, keep in mind, I've been gone 19 years, right? Seems like almost yesterday, but I left in the aftermath of 9/11. In January 1st, 2002, I left with Rudy Giuliani. So there's a lot of guys on the job right now that didn't work for me, but they know me by reputation. They know what I did when I was on the job. There's still guys on the job that were there with me, and those guys constantly complain, the leadership. Things that were done under Rudy Giuliani that made the city better, that drove down violent crime, drove down murder, drove up economic development and real estate values and tourism. Basically, the entire renaissance of New York City occurred under Rudy Giuliani, and now this mayor is taking it back 30 years, maybe 40 years. He's reversing the city, and the cops hate it.
Is it too much to say from Minneapolis to the Big Apple, Bernie? Is there a war on the police in America?
You know what, Sebastian? You could say that. But I honestly, from my personal opinion, and I think we've talked about this in the past. I used to say that my biggest fear for this country was the threat of global terror. Right? That's not my biggest fear anymore, by far. My biggest fear today is the infusion of socialism and possible communism into this country. And I think that is even a bigger threat than the war on cops. The war on cops is only a part of that. It's just a part of that. But we have anarchists and Marxists and Antifa and Black Lives Matter, these unbelievable hate groups that are trying to destabilize the government. They're trying to tear down the government. And we have members of Congress that are supporting it, which, you know,
Did you
thought, no,
think that
no.
you would have people not on the fringes, not protesters screaming at a riot, but members of Congress saying, yes, defund the police means defund the police, Bernie?
Listen, you know what, Sebastian? In New York City, we have, because the city's so big, and we have the United Nations here.
Yes.
We have thousands of protests a year, thousands. We do protests better than anybody. I never thought I'd see the day where we'd have protests that turn into outright riots, and we have politicians supporting it. Yeah. Politicians supporting lunatics, arsonists, looters, complete lawlessness. Politicians supporting them, saying they have a right to do what they're doing. I never thought we'd have people in Congress that hate this country as much as they do. And I didn't think that was possible. I don't know how they get elected.
What's going to happen if some of these extremists actually get what they want? If you see police departments, we've had a vote in one of these municipalities, a majority vote of the local council to just get rid of the police. What's going to happen to those jurisdictions?
Well, here's what happens. You basically go back to New York City prior to Giuliani in 1994, when we had 2,200 homicides per year. We were the murder capital of the world, And it took the implosion of New York City. It basically took the implosion of New York City before anybody said, you know what, it's time to stop electing Democrats. We have to get a Republican. We have to get somebody in office that can really fix this. And they brought in Giuliani, and over that 8-year period, he did. I think around the country today, you know, you have a diversion narrative, and the diversion narrative is police brutality, racial injustice by police, all this stuff. That's a diversion narrative. And it's a diversion narrative because nobody wants to talk about the real problem, and that is the Democratic leadership in every one of these Democratic cities where there is the systematic slaughter of black men and women, and nobody's doing anything about it, whether it's Chicago, Baltimore, St. Louis, Milwaukee, and I can go on and on. They're all run by Democrats. And they have black lives being killed on a daily basis that match numbers in a war zone in Iraq. And you know what? If black lives really mattered, if it really mattered, they'd be marching through Chicago 24 hours a day.
We're talking to Bernie Kerik. Follow him right now, Bernard Kerik on Twitter. We've got 30 seconds left, Commissioner. The president earlier today signed an executive order saying no chokeholds unless the officer's life is threatened and other initiatives. What's the additional? What else should the president do next in terms of this war on America, in terms of socialism and in terms of against our police?
Well, one thing I'd like to see over and above what he did, and what he did is phenomenal. It's phenomenal for the communities. It's phenomenal for the cop. It's a step in the right direction. But you know what? Somebody has to hold the mayors and the governors accountable. Yeah. You have to tell the people in your community, you can't attack my cops. You can't assault them. You can't disarm them and take their tasers. You can't hit them with cars. You can't resist arrest. You can't obstruct and interfere with an arrest, because the cops are going to use force to effect an arrest, and you're going to get hurt. Sometimes you could get killed. You need to stop. And instead of these mayors and governors telling people, knock it off, they're inciting, they're instigating. And that's why we're having these problems.
The line between civilization and anarchy is a thin one, and its color is blue. Thank you, Commissioner. Follow him, Bernard Kerik, on Twitter, also on Instagram.
Thank you.
I'm Sebastian Gorka. This is America First.